being the coach of the first dynamic kickoff return for a touchdown?
Beats the alternative. No, it's good. I mean, I'm happy for the guys. There's been a ton of work put into it, and a lot of trial and error, and to have some success, that's good.
DeeJay suggested after the game that you guys might have seen something. I don't know if you want to reveal anything, but he said some teams left their cards there in full sight, and if you know, you know. Was there something you spotted that you could exploit?
Not really. I mean, when you enter that environment and the wind is factoring in the game, right? Like all of the kicks that went towards the tunnel that the locker rooms are in, they're all touchbacks. The other way, it was a struggle to get them in the end zone, and there's some mishits, and I don't think either team was really leaving the ball in play on purpose. It's just the conditions that you're dealing with, and it's new. It's new for coverage teams. It's new for the return teams, and you're not really sure what you're going to see. You're trying to train your guys enough to where the fundamentals will take over, and you're not really attacking a play because you have no idea what you're going to see. You're attacking different leverages and things like that. So for us, that play we've run, it's literally the first one that we put in the spring. Everybody blocked the same guys we did the very first time we ever worked on it, including when Coach Gannon was playing the L5 in our walkthrough. And we've tinkered with it, the leverages and how we're coaching it and the spacing and stuff. But, at that point in the game, we had seen kind of our matchups and, felt decent about our chances if the ball were to stay in play to have a productive play.
Did you get a lot of calls from guys asking about the play?
Not calls. I mean, this time of year, it's, a lot of texts, and that generally happens if, you make a splash play, and I'm sure everybody in the league is going to be doing the same thing I'm doing today, which is looking at every return across the league and trying to figure out how we can improve how we're coaching things.
You mentioned before watching both sides, so will you watch DeeJay's return from the other point of view of not just, when we're returning, but from the other side as well?
Yeah, from a coverage perspective? Are you asking like?
Right. Are you going to watch it and kind of like critique it from the other side of
Absolutely.
it?
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that I'm sure that they're going to be correcting. There's some things that are similar to how we're coaching things, and there's some things that, until you start seeing all that stuff live, it's hard to convince players this is why we have to do it a certain way, and these are the ramifications if we don't. They had a return that got out, to midfield on us, and there's some things that we've talked about throughout the spring and throughout training camp. Sometimes that stuff hits home, sometimes it doesn't. It certainly hits home when it costs you, it costs you field position. And thankfully for us, defensively, there was a sack fumble at the end of that drive, so it didn't really impact it, but. You evaluate everything from all angles.
What did you learn about kickoff in real time, live action on both sides of the ball?
It's a good question. I don't know that there was anything revealed in a way that really surprised us. I think there was things that happened that reinforced the way that we're coaching things. I think there's philosophically, I learned this one. I don't know if I've said this in front of you guys or not. I learned this when I was in Denver. When you're at altitude and there's a lot of touchbacks throughout the season, and you're hitting touchbacks, and at that point the touchback line was a 20-yard line, so there weren't people intentionally keeping the ball in play. The 20-yard line was a good play for your kickoff team, but what inevitably happens, you run into a game in which the conditions say it ain't going to be a touchback, and you better be ready to cover kicks at every point in the season. And for us to be able to get that exposure in week one, that's a positive thing for us. I think it just goes to show that at some point you're going to have to cover, and it's not always going to end up the same way.
After that game mean, do you look at the schedule and count how many indoor stadiums you're gonna be at, not dealing with that kind of wind?
Well, there's factors involved in every game, and your opponent's going to play into those things. You never know what the outdoor games are going to bring. There's always a chance for rain. There's always a chance for wind. So when you're playing an outdoor game, you certainly got to prepare for those types of things. I mean, there are certain things, some adjustments that we've gone and talked about making that, when the wind's in your face, as a coverage team, some of those things are eliminated because ball placement is going to factor in as well. So, you try and evaluate everything every week.
I know you can't speak for other coordinators, but is the touchback the preferred play when that option is there for you?
No, I wouldn't say the preferred play. I think every situation is different. You got to look at your matchup. As a coverage team, you look at who's the quarterback on the other team. How much time's left? Is it an end of game, end of quarter? Like all those things will factor in. The field position has been here before. When the ball was being kicked off from the 30-yard line, there's four-man wedge, and I was around for those things. Like the starting field position was flirting with the 30-yard line at that point. I don't remember what the exact numbers were. But when they moved the touchback, up to the 25, that factored in. When they moved the kickers up to the 35, that factored in. I think you just have to evaluate it every week and attack the situation as best you can.
Even Jonathan said you intentionally wanted to go that direction in the fourth.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know basically pretty early in warm-ups, like this is the setup, if we win the toss, like this is what we want to do, or is that something kind of more towards the kickoff that you kind of decide?
No, I think you evaluate it when you start evaluating it when you walk on the field a couple hours before the game and confirm those things. Once you see us kick and punt, them kick and punt, the quarterbacks, sometimes in some stadiums I've been in, if there's no wind, where's the sun? Are you going to put the returner in the sun? Or are you going to put their offense in the sun? Do you want the quarterback looking at the sun or the receivers looking back? I mean, there's so many things. In this particular week, we confirmed it right before we walked off the field and stuck with that plan.
Even with the wind at your back, did the wind have any effect on that last punt from Blake?
Yeah, it did. Blake punted it, and right as the ball's being dropped, there's a little bit of a gust, so it moves on his foot, and then once it got in the air, it blew further. So, the wind factored.
When you have a play like that, do you see that in real time? Is that something Blake comes and talks to you later and says, yeah, there was a gust right there, or can you see it, or like?
It's hard for me to see those things on the sideline. You kind of have an idea of what might have caused a mishit kick or a mishit punt. Sometimes you can see, if the snap's off and the punter moves or something like that. But in real time, the wind affecting a drop, that's tough to see from the sideline.
So in a case like that, then do you hold off whatever emotion you might have about a play that didn't go the way you want until you talk to him to see exactly what was involved there? Or is it hard because you want it to be produced better than it was in the emotion of the moment of the game? Yeah, I mean, I know it'll probably shock you, but I'm pretty even keeled during games. I've tried to be that way, try to take the emotion out of it. Sometimes you can't help yourself. I've kind of broke character about 3 times in my career, usually on a positive part, but when a play doesn't go the way that you want it to go, you always think about the players and, what's the best thing going forward. If we got to punt again, the game goes into overtime, like he knows what happens. He's a pro. He's done a great job since he's been here. He'll bounce back. It's just a play that didn't go the way we wanted it to.
What are the 3 times?
I don't remember. I don't have a great memory. What's that? There's at least 3, yeah.
We, obviously, we're evaluating this in the context of him returning a kick for a touchdown, but throughout camp and preseason, what did you see from DeeJay to make you think that he might be able to become an asset for you in the kicking game?
Yeah, it didn't happen this year. It happened when we played twice a year in Seattle. Like, I know how our guys felt tackling him and what you see on tape, and he is a big player with the ball in his hand, and he runs fast, and he has a physical run style, and he challenges people. You know, DeeJay, he can be evasive, but he probably seek contact more than he's running away from it, and he confirmed that when we got him. Obviously, the physicality stuff doesn't show up in OTAs and some of the preseason work that you have, but he showed up again week 1.
Buffalo having to use holder with the wind on their kicks. Does that make any sort of difference or require any sort of adjustment for a kickoff when you've got to have a holder?
Yeah, it can. It used to affect things more when he was one of the players who could, when he was one of the 11, right? Like this, that's the first time in NFL history that you've legally been able to put 12 guys on the field. So it's something I think they've got to look at from a league standpoint, because right now they're telling us the ball's got to blow off the tee twice, and now we can bring the holder in. What they're trying to get away from is there was some chatter with some of the kicks that people were practicing in the offseason that having a holder, you could lean the ball a certain way. With a holder, you couldn't without a holder. I hope I'm saying that makes sense. If a guy was able to hold the ball at a certain angle, it's to the kicker's advantage. So they don't want that to happen. You know, but the reality is when that ball blows off the tee, you know, I've seen it where, you know, the kicker, he's on that last approach step and on his plant, and that ball starts to fall. We don't want that either. So it's something they got to look at, but that was a first for us.